Ballerina TV. I'm Steve Brinkman, and my colleague Chris Fensom's here with me. Chris, what have you been getting up to this week?
Well, I've actually been doing some mixed martial arts training. I've been on the mats, I've been doing a little bit of jiu-jitsu. We're actually still in lockdown when we're filming this, so most of it's been training with my wife, who's not very happy about being my training partner because I'm actually in the super heavyweight division, and she doesn't really appreciate me practicing on her. But she's got to put up with it for now. That's the life of being married to a martial artist. How about you, Steve? How's your week been?
I've just been sprinting up and down hills and chasing children, but I've been really looking forward to getting back to the fights. And we've got 3 excellent fights for you today. We're going to be breaking them down, taking a look at them, and these are some of the premier fights from all around Europe in 2020.
And let's have a look at what's coming up on tonight's show. Wow, we have a huge night of action on tonight's show. So our first fight coming up is Teal Edwards versus Chris Mills. Steve, tell us about this fight and this matchup.
Well, not to steal one of your lines, Chris, but this is really interesting because Chris Mills comes from 5 Elements Gym, which was a traditional sort of karate dojo in the past. And now what they're doing is trying to develop their style and mix it more and address their weaknesses. So try to bring in some grappling, some boxing, some kickboxing, and trying to control. And we're going to see how that pays off for Chris Mills in just a few moments. Because as we know, in mixed martial arts, there's nowhere to hide. There's no 4-inch punches or death touches. It's what works in the cage, and if it doesn't work, it gets discarded. Similar to another martial arts hero, isn't it, Chris?
Are you talking about Bruce Lee?
A little bit.
You can't have a martial arts show and criticize Bruce Lee. That's like that's the rule of martial arts. Everyone must love Bruce Lee.
I'm not criticizing Bruce Lee. I'm saying that Bruce Lee said if it doesn't work, you have to discard it. You can only keep what is necessary. And Bruce Lee, obviously, from decades ago, now we have a real modern martial arts program, and that's what Ballerina offers every single time.
Well, I think it makes sense for these traditional gyms to bring in mixed martial arts and use it as a vessel for improvement of those traditional martial arts. It's when they were developing these traditional martial arts, they didn't have YouTube, didn't have a way of testing it. Now we can put these fighters in a cage, they can test their techniques and they can see what works and what doesn't. And this matchup is a classic one of those. It's a striker versus wrestler, there's submission attempts, it's a really exciting fight, and I think we're going to go watch it now.
Add another win to the column, but Chris Mills wants to spoil the party for the homeboy, Teal Edwards. Slapping kick there from Chris Mills. Teal Edwards backing him up there with feints. Ooh, caught the kick, landed it right, now he's on the body lock.
Yeah, Chris Mills looking for the takedown. Teal Edwards trying to peel that head off. That power underhook, Steve.
Oh, yeah. Just push the head down. That'll save you all sorts of problems. Look at the strength and athleticism of Teal Edwards. Very strong fella.
Chris Mills as well, though. Driving through, very strong.
This guy's hands connected as well. Just got to drop his elbows in towards his hips. Bit frantic, this pace at the beginning. Not a lot being landed.
Some pretty good knees there from Chris Mills. Softening up the legs of Teal Edwards. Chris just doesn't. He's got good. That's better. Trying to pick up a single. Teal Edwards is so strong you can't pick a single leg up off the floor. That's some serious strength.
Yep. Sitting well there, he uses the underhook properly there. Now he's got his head position and he lands a knee for his trouble.
Oh, but Teal Edwards straight back in. It's a little bit shorter. Sometimes I find that fighters are a little bit shorter are better at holding against the cage. Oh, now he's getting dragged to the floor. Oh! Excellent work by Teal Edwards.
I think there was a complaint there about grabbing the fence.
Oh. He's grabbed it twice.
That's got to be a point away. I don't think Alan Jackson saw the first one, but now he's aware.
Yeah, if it happens again, it'll be a point. Real damage done this fight has been the knees in the clinch of Chris Mills. Just trying to set up his takedowns with him.
Cannot do. He's still getting his head caught in the middle. Oh, guillotine, guillotine, guillotine.
Oh,
ninja choke.
Ninja choke. It's super tight. Oh, that must have twisted his neck a bit.
Somebody got his free chiropractic today.
Yeah, that would have hurt. Oh, nice little turn by Mills. Back to oh, reverses the position.
And
Theo
Mills
saw
is
the
on
thing.
top finally for the first time.
Yeah, he's been wanting this the whole fight. What's he going to do with it? I don't think there's a huge amount of time left.
Oh, he's now climbing up into... Oh, he's in the mount now. This is when you got to do your damage. Posture up.
He's looking for an arm triangle, Steve. He's trying to push the elbow. Briefly now, he's just settling in. Happy to do some ground and pound. Theo Edwards not bridging once.
Yeah, not doing anything against the hips, and we've got that call for 30 seconds there from the corner. So there's some urgency there from Chris Mills' corner. Can he finish it here?
Theo's takedown defense was absolutely fantastic, but his work on the ground here in these jiu-jitsu positions just look a little wanting. He's just holding the body, hoping for the end of the round.
And that's where it's coming.
He's got to be trying to bridge and roll. He's got to use his hips. There's a bit more like it. Trapping the arms of Chris Mills would have been a better thing to do.
This is much better for Chris.
Because he's been a little bit cautious with his striking at the beginning of the round. I'd like to see him let something go.
Exactly. But not necessarily get yourself all crossed up like that.
No, he doesn't have the cleanest, crispest striking. That's the problem.
Oh, there we go. I think Mills is finding his range now. He's getting his confidence. But one shot at middleweight, and you remember middleweight, Chris, one shot can change everything.
I remember middleweight. It was a long time ago.
It must have been so horrible for you at middleweight, man.
I cut a lot of weight to middleweight.
Exactly. Doesn't sound like a fun afternoon, really.
No, I thought I looked good, but I just looked kind of sad. Oh, Theo trying to get the takedown now. This could be a change of...
Flip the script, man.
Yeah, flip the script.
See what's working.
And this could be great cornering. If his corner's got in there and they've been like, look, we're just defending. I want you to shoot for the takedown. I want you to be aggressive. Let's win this round. Oh, and he has got the takedown. Chris Mills with the overwrap on his back. Half butterfly guard. He's clearly starting to set up a triangle. Is Theo aware of it?
Yeah, he's controlling that wrist. He's got a butterfly hook, though. He can't really sneak that leg out for the triangle. But he could elevate it and use it to...
He's still looking for it anyway, Steve. Controlling that wrist, trying to keep that butterfly hook through. Doesn't want to end up in half. He's doing a good job of it, actually. It's possible sweeps from this position. Oh, gets back to full guard. I think that's what he wanted. Now he's going to be looking for that triangle again. Controlling the left wrist of Theo Edwards, trying to push it away, trying to sneak his right leg over the top of it. And hit him from the bottom.
Well, this could be a strong round for Theo Edwards if he remains on top here. Some good control here, though, from Chris Mills.
I really like that position when I'm on the bottom with a single overwrap. I feel like there's so many options. But Theo Edwards just stepping over that, back to butterfly half. It's my favorite position, Steve. Do you know that? Butterfly half.
Really?
Yeah.
You can do that cool, like...
I got lots of leg entries, sweeps. It's just a good spot to be in.
Elevate and start working.
Yeah, and generally the guy on top, he's only got to do one thing. You know exactly what he was going to do.
He's trying to pass to that side.
Yep.
Trying to catch the foot and pass.
As long as you can be ready for it and have some counters.
I'll try to remember this tomorrow while I'm rolling. Chris says I should be fine here.
Do you get past? You got to be... Oh, the triangle that he's been hunting for the whole time.
Can he lock it up, though? Theo Edwards doing really well coming out that side.
Perfect smash pass.
Passed it. 10 seconds. He goes right back to it.
He's trying to find a big win. A big shot.
Home run shot. Home run shot. There's a pass for you. Woo! And we got to go to the judges' scorecards again. Theo Edwards or Chris Mills, who will it be?
Wow, what an exciting fight. But that was a decision at the end there, Steve. Can you talk us through the decision? Do you think it was a fair decision?
Well, Chris Mills obviously is victorious in that bout. And what we get from this is that 5 Elements MMA has really brought it all together to highlight their styles. But Chris Mills is able to dictate the pace. And I think the real difference in that fight is the second round. What we have is Theo Edwards flipping the script in the third and getting the takedown himself and getting a lot of control. However, when Chris Mills was on top, he passed to mount after his good double attempt, and then was able to land some incredible ground and pound. And that's the kind of thing that stays in the judges' minds. Because what they're looking for, folks at home, they're looking for damage. They're looking for control, damage, and aggression. And Chris Mills was that in spades.
And I know from when me and you have been cage side, one of the things that you find frustrating and I find frustrating is being held against the cage. A lot of teams, they don't have a cage to train on, or it takes up a lot of space in the gym, or they don't even have the padded wall, and it can make such a difference in those fights. What was he doing wrong there, Steve, that he couldn't get the takedown early on, and there was so much just held in position?
You can do so much wrong in an MMA fight, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but Chris Mills had Theo Edwards against the fence. Theo was sitting back, and he was sitting his weight back. Chris needed to step his hips in and get more of a body lock to try to control. And that's what he does in the second. He climbs up the legs and is able to get the takedown. This is a great adjustment. It shows an evolution of the fighter within the fight. He is a different fighter between the first and the second. However, what happens in the second is that Chris Mills completely goes for broke. He thinks he's going to end it in the second when he's on top and mount, ground and pounding, but Theo Edwards comes back even stronger in the third. This is one of those fights, folks, where you would love to see a fourth and fifth round, and that's what we offer in the title fights.
And I want to give a shout out to that ninja choke. That was very close. A ninja choke, you push your arm through like you're going for an uppercut, lock it up, and I think it was millimeters away from getting the finish. Really great fight. I'm glad we got to see that. And we have more great fights coming up after the break.
Welcome back to Battle Arena. What an amazing fight we had earlier. I hope you enjoyed it. Chris, you seem a bit distracted.
I'm confused by the bow tie.
Well, after last week, unfortunately, we had a few complaints about my belly coming out. I've been trying to add some more professionalism to the mixed martial arts world. After all, these are people fighting in their underpants in a cage.
True. But you do look like a confused school teacher, but you are a school teacher, so that does make a little bit of sense. But, yeah.
Let's have a look at what's still to come.
And welcome back. We got a great show this evening, Steve. Now, our second fight on the show is Szymon Lemensky versus Harrison Bryant. I know this is in the lightweight division. What do you think of the Battle Arena lightweight division?
Well, we just had a look at some middleweights, and these are some behemoths going at it with each other. They're tall, they're strong, but the lightweights, they get the best of both worlds. They have power, they have speed. They've had some great people hold the title, by the way. And what they can do is they can finish the fight in the blink of an eye. And that's something that I think we're going to see in this next fight. Szymon Lemensky, always dangerous, but he's going to have his work cut out for him here.
And I think that can be one of the differences. The heavier, especially the heavyweights, it can be really exciting 30 seconds, but then often they're both too gassed to carry on fighting. And especially with the title fights with the lightweight guys, they can just keep going. They have these insane gas tanks, and because they don't have as much weight behind their punches, often they can take a little bit more punishment. So you'll see the fight go on longer, and they'll land those combinations, those more shots. And those guys in the gym, they're always stuck with the bigger, stronger paid training partners, and they have to get through that adversity and keep going. Was that what it's like for you, Steve? You're always stuck with bigger, stronger training partners?
Well, being one of the shorter guys, definitely. And what's important is being able to mix up that style, being able to strike effectively, work into the clinches, and trying to dominate. And it's who gets the position first, and who is able to establish their will upon the other person, who can establish range, and who can make the first hit, the first piece of damage. And we're going to see what happens. All right, folks, I'm here with welterweight standout Harrison Bryant. Harrison, I know that you've been wanting to get into the cage for so long. What were some things that led up to this fight with Szymon Lemensky?
Well, the funny story actually. So I was meant to be fighting in November in the Birmingham card as well, but the week of it fell out. So I feel like I had that experience of a training camp as well, and the built up energy, like wanting to release it. Do you know what I mean? So I put really everything into that fight I had, and yeah, I'm just improving every day. I think. Just can't wait to get there again, to be honest with you.
You had a whole camp before the November card. Obviously, your fight gets scrapped. You fight in March. Was there any changes that you made between that camp and the camp before your debut, I guess it was, in March of 2020?
Yeah, I'd say so. So with the November fight, I took the fight the day I come back from holiday from Turkey. So as soon as I come, so I was fat as well. So I took the fight quite fat, and I was working from that unfit state to fit. Do you know what I'm saying? Whereas where I started my camp for the March fight, I was in shape from the camp. So I feel like that definitely helped. So I didn't have to focus on my fitness as much. I could just focus on doing me, my wrestling and that, my boxing. So I feel like the second camp, if anything, like, was better than the first. And I had that experience of going through camp, a lot more intensity as well, because I kind of I don't know. I feel like when people think about a camp, they just think it's training a little bit more intense. But to me, it's more than that. I don't know. It's weird to describe. I feel like that was definitely.
Is it more shaping skills, kind of getting your mental focus there to try to approach that particular fight?
Yeah,
and
no,
more of a.
say like, I'm always training, but it's mainly just on skills and stuff like this. But when you're in camp, like you're training like 5-6 days a week, it is mental a lot. Like a lot of times, like in between rounds and that, we just sit down and we'll have a chat, just about fighting and stuff, about where our headspace is. So I feel like that's definitely a big part of it as well, like you say.
What kind of advice would you give to somebody that wants to get into mixed martial arts and wants to actually compete and go under the bright lights and get into the cage?
Yeah. So as someone who's never done martial arts before, or
well, somebody that just wants to go into mixed martial arts, what have you done? What was your journey? Yeah.
So my journey might be a bit easier. So I was really insecure, like before I started training. I'm 20 years old now, and I must have started when I was 15. No martial arts experience at all. Like I used to think of like martial arts as like either like traditional kung fu, do you know what I mean? Like not a bit of me, or like on the other spectrum, like boxing. So like really, really aggressive. And I was never that person. So to me, going to the gym I'm at now, which is 5 minutes out of Basildon, and coming into that really good atmosphere where everyone's really relaxed and chilled out and wants to help each other, that definitely helped me. So I'd say to a lot of people who want to start is going with an open mind, because I feel like it is intimidating the first time you walk in the gym. But I feel like if people know it's not like, I mean, you probably understand, like when you tell people what you do, like you're a martial arts commentator, there's still that stigma there. So I definitely tell people not to be not to be as anxious about what it is, because the majority of the martial arts community, I think, is quite respectful. So
yeah,
I'd say just not.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you very much, Harrison. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at that fight, and as a debut fight, it's really, really interesting. Let's see how Harrison Bryan mixes up his first time in the cage.
A very supple high kick, goes to the leg. Shimon steaming in with a right hand cross of his own. Real tussle here. Shimon very tight in the shoulders here, telegraphing a lot of his punches. So kind of his antithesis standing across from him, and Bryan being very, very relaxed. As he steams in for a right hand, tries to set it up. Oh, drops for a double, does Bryan. He had it locked up, he just needed to finish. Can he connect his hands here against the fence and try to rip the legs out from under Shimon Loretsky? And he does. Now he's on top. He's trying to tie up those legs. Maybe do some more damage from the top bit. He's controlling the wrist very well. Got murder on his mind. Does Bryan, and Shimon is turning away. Never a good look. Bryan sagging on top of him and landing left hands at will. Really doing well to just smother him into the cage here. Want to see a little bit of urgency from Shimon Loretsky. He's got to stand right up, look to face his opponent. Now going back to it again, he's going to rip his legs out. It's like deja vu here in the first round. Harrison Bryan really taking it to Shimon Loretsky. He's throwing a lot of just peppering shots here. Really scoring in the minds of the judges. Shimon is turning away. Oh, he's getting it waved off already. It's a bunch of shots to the back of the ear. Szymon Lorецki and Harrison Bryan has the TKO victory here in the first round. Story of takedowns and pounds. An excellent start there from Lorецki, but it's just the pace and the speed and the volume of punches that Harrison Bryan has had put on him. Just had no answer.
He just established his range really early on. I have to go to the striking expert about that. He was throwing a lot of volume there at the very beginning, and I think that might have shaped the fight.
Yeah, I agree, Steve. And not just volume, but range control. That's the big difference, especially in that fight. The range control of keeping the distance. What you want to be is just too far away so they can't hit you. And then when you come in and you land your shot, you're coming out again. And one of the weird things we saw in that fight that you don't actually normally see people do in fights is actually stepping forward to throw some, it was actually a big right hook they were throwing. So stepping in to throw a right hook. Normally you don't want to step in. Because if you're stepping in, you can't really go backwards very easily. You've got to put your foot down to come back. And that's why we're always trying to slide, keep our dominant leg backwards. But he was stepping in with a hook, and it was just to kill the range because he was at kicking range and not quite at that boxing range. But it was really, really impressive. The distance control, the combinations, and those step-in weird hooks. And then sometimes it's worth doing something wrong because people don't expect it, right? You can now, or like, I box a lot and quite often have my hands low, which a boxing coach would say that's very, very dangerous. But I like to lean away and come back with my own shots. So sometimes you've got to break the rules to be able to land those shots. But what really impressed me in that fight, Steve, was the wrestling and control. And I know you're a wrestling expert and a high school wrestling champion. So can you go through that with us?
Exactly. This is one of the important elements of being a wrestler in a mixed martial arts fight. If you're comfortable in your wrestling, and especially in your wrestling range, which is going to be chest to chest and nice and close, you are able to strike in a little bit more effectively because you're not afraid of them hitting you back. Because you know you can take one and get in on the legs, as Szymon Lorецki was able to do. One thing that I think set it up quite early was he was able to throw a high kick, which didn't quite land, it just glanced off. But what it did was it put his opponent really on the back foot, and he was going to be stepping out and backing him up against the cage. And we know that in wrestling, in high school wrestling, we're looking at what we call open play. There's no walls to work with. Whereas in MMA, when you shoot in on somebody and you get the body lock, the way Szymon Lorецki did, you have the cage to use as your benefit. It's almost like having an extra, what would you say? It's really a wall, and it's really wall wrestling. It's a completely different factor. And what we saw there was a bit of confusion from his opponent because he wasn't able to make any sort of defensive moves, and he ended up getting ridden there. And what we see in the very, very end is Szymon Lorецki popping his hip in a bit to be able to feed those left hands in with no reaction and no real get out or defensive position from Nathaniel.
I think putting it together, that's what makes the difference, right? It's not just being a striker, but being comfortable enough to throw those shots because you know you can risk the takedown because you're going to be able to defend it. And that's what we've seen with some of the pros, like the Conor McGregors of the world. They have to pull their shots a little bit because they're so scared of the takedowns because they're slightly one-dimensional fighters.
Exactly, and you can't be a one-dimensional fighter anymore. You have to have it all in spades, even at this amateur level. Well, we're going to go for a quick break and be right back with some more action. Welcome back to Battle Arena TV. Now, unfortunately, there was a bit of a mix-up with the tape, and we've been allowed to do this last little bit from home. So, as everyone else that's been furloughed, we're going to take a look at some things that happened a long time ago. Chris, what are we going to look at?
I believe the producers asked if they could feature one of my fights, which was very kind of them. They've chosen the specific one where I take an absolute pasting for most of the fight. My technique in this fight was to let the guy hit me until he got tired and then catch a fluky submission and win the light heavyweight Battle Arena belt.
The old Homer Simpson technique. Take a lot of shots to the head and put them over when they become exhausted.
Exactly right, Steve. It was my strategy, and even after the fight, my wife has got this photo where she used the selfie camera to show me how bruised my face was, and I pull a very shocked face looking at the amount of bruises, and she took the perfect photo, and I actually have that on my phone still of the pasting I took. But I won, and that's the main thing, not the brain damage. It's all about the gold belts.
Exactly. Well, brain damage and bouts of crippling depression aside, Chris, we're going to take a look at that fight right now.
Guy for light heavyweight. Likes to stand and bang. Also likes his wrestling as well. But Chris is a BJJ purple belt, so very slick on the floor.
He's not going to be too worried about getting taken down here then.
No, not too worried whatsoever. Muscle needs to be careful.
Watch those hips already snaking.
Yeah, he's got a good takedown. He's got a nice overhook on the left-hand side, as does Chris. So, and they're going straight for the sweep there. Muscle using his athletic ability there, using his strength. Very well done, very well controlled. But you saw straight away, Chris very slick off his back. So Muscle landing some big shots now. He's not bothered about the floor neither. He's a very good catch sort of wrestler style.
Benson's obviously going to have to be beware of the power of Muson there.
Yeah, definitely.
Guy. He's got a lot of support here with him as well.
Yeah, massive crowd. He's got that inside butterfly for that sweep as well.
Benson going for that sweep. Muson just clings on there.
Yeah, the fence is just in his way. I think if he nails it from sort of like the opposite direction, he'll catch it. Yeah, definitely. Just stay really heavy on the hips. JP does. Chris is doing a great job off his back though, nullifying the ground and pound on JP at the minute.
Benson just trying to tie up the arms and not take any damage.
Yeah, JP's still working well. He's got that inside butterfly again, just to one leg. Tried to go for that sweep. Now switching it to the other side, maybe trying to pop his hips out. JP's still working for the ground and pound. He's trying to go for an open claw and then maybe into an armbar. He's got it, it looks nice and straight. JP did really well to step over.
That looked very dangerous for a moment there.
Yeah, for a second there it looked really tight. JP looks like he's going for a double leg. Needs to be careful of the neck. JP flopped back, unfortunately, straight onto his back. Now he's in mount.
Big full man, he's gone for
the armbar again.
He could have it this time.
Go for the armbar, it looks tight. JP's trying to curl up the head, trying to relieve a bit of pressure. Chris pops that head out, he could straighten that arm out. It's hard to see where the position is from this angle. I think he's gone for the triangle. I think he switched it to a triangle. He's got a triangle now. JP needs to be careful, needs to get his head up. It looks really tight. And that's a tap. That's it. Chris has pulled it off.
Fantastic. Impressive win there.
Lovely switch. Hit the armbar.
So coming up shortly, we have a professional mixed martial arts fight. Now, the professional ranks have a slightly different rule set, don't they, Steve?
They certainly do, Chris. It's much more dire in the professional ranks. You have a completely new set of skills, a different arsenal, if you will, because now we start introducing the elbows and the knees to the head, where you can possibly elbow to the body or knee to the body in some amateur fights. Now you can start landing those elbows and knees to the head, which we know are severe power shots, and they can completely change the face of a fight, can't they?
Yeah, and
somebody's face.
This is true. We're seeing so many more cuts in the professional ranks. The gloves are smaller, and because there's less padding on the gloves, they're more likely to cut you. Knees and elbows are more likely to cut you. And especially the professional fighters end up with a little bit of scar tissue on their face if they have a few fights. So you're seeing a lot more blood, essentially. And that's what some people are turned off by MMA because of the blood. But that's part of the sport. That's part of, you can win a fight if you can cut someone and they're bleeding in their eye. The rule set would say they can't intelligently defend themselves, and the fight would be over. One of the things that I think that people don't notice about the difference between the rule sets is because you have smaller gloves with a little less padding, you can't box as much like a boxer. So a boxer will often cover up shots like this, nice and simple. They see the shot coming and cover up their head like that. When you've got 4-ounce gloves, those punches will sneak through because not only are you blocking with a smaller pad, but you're being hit with a smaller pad that can sneak through.
Mm-hmm. And those smaller gloves, obviously the knuckles show through. And really, these gloves weren't really designed to protect your head. They were designed to protect your hands. So they're doing more for the offensive fighter than they would be for the defensive fighter. There is some more elements of the grappling aspect that we also see in professional MMA. And what you're allowed to do is you're allowed to start doing some more knee barring and heel hooks from this side of MMA. And heel hooks, of course, have become very, very in vogue since the Danaher Death Squad and what you see happening at the highest levels of no-gi grappling. So being able to control and being able to snap on ligament-damaging techniques is a big part of professional mixed martial arts.
And there's a reason for that. In the amateur ranks, we don't let guys do those particular submissions, the spine locks, twisters as well, you can only do it pro, and those horrible knee locks you're talking about, because they can cause permanent damage or a long-term injury. So it's also the intelligence of the fighter. Do they realize they're in trouble? Are they going to tap out at the appropriate time? Are they even aware of the technique? There would be nothing worse than an amateur fighter being caught in a leg lock, not really understanding what they were in, so not tapping out, not realizing that we're done, and then sustaining a career-ending possible injury from it. Now, it's also slightly different round lengths, isn't it, Steve? Is it 3 minutes, 4 minutes?
Well, what we've got is 3 minutes for our amateur fights, and we've got 3 5-minutes for a professional fight. That is an immense amount of time to be trying to perform at the highest level of athleticism. Like we've talked about, now we're mixing in strikes, not just with your hands and your feet, but your knees, your elbows. You've got grappling, you've got a myriad of submissions coming at you, and it's what it is to be professional. And the insinuation or the implication of being professional is that you're trying to make a career, you're trying to make a livelihood out of this. And that means that you're probably going to be training a lot more. You're probably going to be bringing in better coaching, nutritionists, strength and conditioning coaches. These people are truly world-class athletes. They fight all over the world. And here on Battle Arena, a lot of ours have been elevated to the top of the mixed martial arts world, haven't they?
They have, but before we get to this exciting professional rules mixed martial arts fight, I know we've got to catch up with the Mayhem girls, so we're going to go to them now.
Today we are in Sutton and Ashfield at Resurrection MMA Gym.
But first, let's have a catch up of last week's episode at Team Renegade Gym in Birmingham. We had the pleasure of meeting King's Athlete Management, Fabian Edwards, Leon Edwards, Ilias the Fisher, Aidan Lee and Jai Herbert. Welcome to Resurrection, and hello from George.
Today I have the pleasure of meeting Christian Smith, one of the head coaches here. He has over 20 years worth of experience in MMA and is a BJJ black belt. We'll also be talking to Tim, one of the coaches and trainers here. I'll be meeting 2 of the fighters here today as well, Jake and Dorian. Jake will be making his pro debut on Battle Arena in July this year. The club has been established for over 20 years, but in 2005 they wanted to up their game and they affiliated with Shooters MMA and also Gordon BJJ Europe and British Wrestling.
Christian Smith, I'm the head coach at Resurrection Mixed Martial Arts Academy. We do a variety of different disciplines. We've got mixed martial arts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, self-defense, boxing, fitness classes. We do it for adults and kids. My mum got diagnosed about 7 or 8 years ago now with Parkinson's. And there was a trial they was doing in New Zealand for boxing that really helped, with movements, big movements to help. So me and my mum started with it. She mentioned it to the local Parkinson's group she was going to, and it just went from there. And now we do on two classes a week online. Been good, yeah. We've got a regular following that come now. We used to do it pre-COVID at the gym. They used to come to the gym, but obviously we adapted it, and now they're more happy. The people who do it online. Hopefully we're introducing back into the gym, but most of them at the moment are quite happy to do it online. Everybody expects it to be full of big meatheads, with big egos walking around, but it isn't. It's not like that. You'll see, again, we've got a good range here from kids as young as 5 up to, people who just come and do it for fitness. It's, come, don't be afraid to walk through the door. Everybody's friendly and welcome.
I'm Jake Stark. I'm a professional MMA fighter and I'm fighting at the Resurrection Mixed Martial Arts Academy. And my next upcoming fight will be the 24th of July on Battle Arena. It's in the area. Best facilities, best trainers. Christian, his record speaks for itself. Do you know what I mean? There's nowhere better in this area to go and train and compete. So, yeah, it was a no-brainer. I'd say when I won my belt, but the best and biggest thing I did, after I lost the fight, I had a lot of mental issues, and it took me a long time to get back to where I was. So coming back from that to being in the position I am now, I'm proud of myself for that. There's no belts or anything that can top that.
Hi, I'm Tim Butler. I'm one of the instructors here at Resurrection Mixed Martial Arts Academy. And yeah, do BJJ MMA? Good question. Basically, consistency is key. I think you need to cover all the bases, so don't just stick to one discipline. You've got striking, your wrestling's massive, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, even though it's a totally different sport, you're still grappling. You need to really cover it, and strength and conditioning's key. Obviously, it's no good going in without no gas tank.
So thanks for watching part 1. Stay tuned to see what we have coming up in this week's challenge. This is Jade from Mayhem Babes for Battle Arena TV.
Thanks very much to the Mayhem girls. I'm looking forward to seeing what you have in store for us a little bit later on in the show. Now, we're going to be going to a quick break, but remember that just on the other side of this, we have our first professional mixed martial arts fight. David Kalsa versus Nikolai Pirogin. Please come back in a few moments.
Welcome back to Battle Arena TV. Like Steve was saying, we have a huge pro fight coming up with an amazing finish at the end. But before then, we're going to go back to the Mayhem girls.
We took this building on September of last year, so we ain't been here long. It was up and running, and then we lasted, I think, a week before we got locked down again.
So my name's Dorian. I'm an amateur fighter. I've had 3 fights so far at Battle Arena, and I'm hoping to get a bunch more when things open back up.
Martial arts helps mental health massively. I mean, it does me personally, because at one point in my time I was a very angry young man who had didn't know what path to choose. I had nowhere to go, no drive. And martial arts has given me that outlet where I've found something I'm good at. So that's my outlet now, and it's given me opportunities what I wouldn't have anywhere else. It keeps me stable when I'm getting up in the morning. I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm looking forward to. And as I said before, it just builds me confidence, it helps you, it's exercise. You feel, I don't leave the gym feeling bad, I always feel good. So yeah, I'd recommend it for anyone who's struggling with the mental health.
Yeah, we cover pretty much all aspects of MMA. We do stand-up striking, we do boxing classes, we do wrestling. We're part of British wrestling team as well, so we cover the wrestling quite heavily. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes, submission wrestling, all sorts, cover all aspects. Proudest achievement, without a shadow of a doubt, is standing on the podium with my daughter. My proudest moment was competing at the British no-gi. I managed to get the gold, and my daughter also got gold, so standing on the podium next to her.
Well, hello, so welcome for the Mayhem MMA Challenge. I have been blessed to have Christian and Jake here help me out today, so let's see what they have in store for me.
We can do a little takedown on the cage, simple trick. So I've got control of my opponent with an underhook here, head position, blocking in, great for knees, working away. What I'm going to do is just take a little step back, especially if there's a gap. Here. Hook, lift, fall. Heel fall, just control your weight down. Perfect striking.
Smashing.
Position.
Okay.
All right, go.
That's it. See who I'm taking down today.
Good position. There you go.
Yes. Come on. Perfect. There we go. And then I'd finish it off with a little arm bar.
Over or whatever. You always want to be facing that opponent. Okay. Okay, so if I take my eye off him, make a kick in the face, if it's on the street, MMA is just going to hit me. The important thing here is to be on your hip. On your ball. There you go again.
Yep. Well, that was harder than it looked. Do get involved at home, and a huge thanks to Christian and Jake for helping me out with this week's Mayhem MMA Challenge. Signing off. This is Jade from Mayhem Babes for Battle Arena TV. Back to the studio.
Thanks, Mayhem girls. That was awesome. Now, we're going to be going to our first professional fight, David Kalsa versus Nikolai Pirogin. And now, Chris, this is just an incredible meeting of two athletes. And what's really interesting about the professionals is that they've had a lot of amateur experience. How does that factor in?
It is huge, Steve, because you don't just want to jump straight in the pro ranks. These guys have come up through the ranks. They would have been started on the undercard, on a very limited rule set, so they can get the experience. They can get used to the weigh-ins, right? They can get used to the pre-fight nerves. They even get used to getting your hands wrapped. All these things, they sound like they're very small parts of the game, but they're things you have to get used to if you're going to be a professional athlete. Even things like the rules meeting. So before every event, you go backstage with a referee and a medic, and you go through the rules, and you're going to be sat opposite the person that you're going to be in the cage with later on, and that can be a nerve-wracking experience for someone. But to get that experience of going through the amateur ranks, building it up, and quite often you'll see the amateurs, they try different looks in every fight. So they go, okay, this time I'm going to work on my wrestling. I'm going to work on that element of my game. Next time I'm going to work on my jiu-jitsu. This time I'm going to focus on my striking. You even see some guys, they try and make the fight go a bit long so they can test their cardio out and really work their way through. And not only the amateur ranks, but these guys both became amateur champions. So they were used to fighting for a bout and the main event, and that can make such a difference.
Yes, and we know that the professionals are always the main event here at MMA Battle Arena. But one of the things that you alluded to is the striking. And one of the most important things that you can learn at home is that you're not made of glass. You can take a shot, but you got to take it correctly. And that's what the professionals are good at. They've taken shots before, they know how much damage they can take, and they know when they can get back in there. But as you said earlier, Chris, there's a big finish coming up. So I'm really looking forward to this MMA bout between the two lightweight standouts in the professional ranks, David Kelsa and Nikolai Pirogin. Let's go and see the fight.
Knees and elbows to the head of a standing opponent.
Yeah, good footwork from David Kelsa. He's just throwing a few feints, trying to get a few. Oh, Pirogin landed a nice short right. I don't think Piroghin's very respectful of the skills of David Kelsa. Be it a big left hook for
he's
being
just walking forward.
Yeah.
And we've seen this happen to David Kelsa before. If you get some pressure put on him pretty quick and pretty early, it does cause him problems. But he has a lot of experience now in the pro ranks. So he's always looking to.
Yeah. He's got these Bellator MMA gloves on because he has fought on Bellator MMA.
And has a win.
Yep. Oh, but yeah, big shot
Watch
there.
throw, and there's the forward just steaming through his Pirogin. Lands a bunch of rights.
Kelsa's, a lot of the time, he's circling towards the power side of Pirogin. It'd be nice to see him circling the other way a little bit.
Pirogin very tight.
Yeah, Pirogin's just kind of marching forward. Slightly Thai boxing style about Pirogin.
Good jab, he sneaks through. Body shot from Kelsa. Pirogin telling him to, come on, come on.
Kelsa's mixing up well.
He's starting to circle to that weak side.
Oh, big kick landed.
Very, very little in terms of a feeling out process.
Pirogin with the pressure. Kelsa's not wilting though. Oh, but yeah, big right.
So that left hand that landed is really puffed up the right eye.
Yeah.
Oh! Right hand lands and sits him right down.
It's all over.
And that's a KO victory. I'm here with your winner, Nikolai Pirogin. Nikolai, a really great showing for our first professional bout of the night. You hit him really hard there in the first. You saw him go down. What did you hit him with?
Yeah, it is my was hard hit with right cross, and after I don't remember. I think right cross, left hook, something like that.
And you finished it up on the floor. A really strong showing there. Can I ask, when are we going to see you next? What's next for Nikolai Pirogin? You got the shirts, you got the look. Let's see it happen.
I'm fighting next month.
Already?
Yeah, already, yeah, it's booked. And I think it might be in July, but it's not confirmed. Looks like I'm fighting every 2-3 months.
So he's staying active, folks. Get Nikolai Pirogin, buy tickets to his show, get the t-shirts, check him out. He's the man of the hour, Nikolai Pirogin.
What we saw there was just a real execution of what it is to be a professional mixed martial artist.
It's true, and to compliment yourself, you did have a pretty good black eye in that video, Steve.
You got to take some to give some.
We need to work on the Battle Arena makeup department to cover that up, I think, next time. The really exciting thing about that fight was the footwork. I got so excited watching that because David Kelsa was moving, and he was moving the most out of the two fighters, essentially. But it wasn't efficient movement. It was kind of a bit sporadic, and it wasn't very technically sound. He was moving a lot, but it wasn't efficient. Whereas Nikolai Pirogin, he almost looked like he wasn't moving very much, but everything he did was smooth and efficient. Everything was an angle. Everything was in and out, nice and smooth. Everything, he had his weight placed perfectly. So when he could land a shot, he could land it with power. Whereas David Kalsa, often when he landed, he was too light on his feet. He couldn't basically the power comes from the floor, right? I always think it looks like some cheesy cartoon. You see the power going through the floor, through the body, into their hand. If your foot is not flat on the floor, you can't push off the floor to develop that power. And I thought we'd actually see David Kalsa mix up the fight a bit more, maybe throw in some wrestling. But he seemed to be happy to try and stand and trade with Nikolai Pirogin, which we could see from the end of the fight was a big mistake.
Yes, and I think David Kalsa was he was fairly successful early on. He hit Nikolai Pirogin a bit off balance there at the very beginning of the first round, and he was using that sidestepping in and out footwork, which I think probably took away from his wrestling because he wasn't able to plant and actually dart in. But what Nikolai Pirogin did so well, and you alluded to it there, everything was efficient, and this is almost like the hypocritical element of martial arts in general. You have to be tight in your guard, efficient in your footwork, but able to snap out punches very, very quickly. And we saw that from Nikolai Pirogin. Can we talk about the finish, Chris?
Well, what a finish it was. What a huge knockout. And sometimes the punches, they don't have to have that much power. It's where it hits. So essentially, sometimes you can see someone land a really heavy shot, but it hits the guy's forehead and he can just ride it easy, right? Or he can go with the punch, ride through and take a punch well. But that was so well timed. David Kalsa was moving, the shot landed on his chin, and there was no way, if your head gets whipped that hard, that you're going to be able to ride it out. It was a huge knockout. And that's what we can expect from Battle Arena TV, right? We have amazing finishes.
We do indeed. And the best thing about Nikolai Pirogin's right hand there was it was just a piston. It came straight out, straight back, just the way that you would throw it against the pads, and it put David Kalsa on his bottom. But we see David Kalsa, he just went right onto autopilot there. He tried to get back up. We know that David Kalsa always has a fight left in him, and we're going to see that a little bit later on in July when he gets back in the MMA Battle Arena cage. But Chris, we're coming to the end of the show again.
We have, and if you'd like to follow Battle Arena, follow us on social media. All the hashtags are going to appear on the screen now. And until next time, I've been Chris Fensom.
I'm Steve Brinkman.
And we'll see you soon.